Welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting of December 13th, 2021. In accordance with LB 898, please be advised that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber by the northwest door. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a brief period of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda. Under public hearing, anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The council shall require any member of the public desiring to address the council to identify themselves, the name of an organization or group, including an address that you may be representing by such a person or group, unless that address requirement is waived to protect the security of the individual. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating their name, address, organization, or group, and whether you're speaking in favor of or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Monday meetings of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date, nor planned for a future agenda. And today is an open microphone session. Will the clerk please call the first item of business?
Today's agenda for Monday, December 13th, 2021, due to the Christmas and New Year holiday, City Council will not meet on December 27th and January 3rd. First we have on our agenda is our Mayor's Award of Excellence.
Good afternoon, Chairman Bowers, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be back with the presentation of the Mayor's Award of Excellence for June of 2021. And this award goes to Equipment Operator Drew DeBoer. He is from the Operations and Maintenance Division of Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. He was nominated by District Supervisor Clayton Engelman in the category of Customer Relations for his actions to help a fellow resident. Last April, the Northeast Asphalt crew was working on a maintenance project at 67th and Layton, and Drew spent most of the day running the crew, which includes milling, shoveling, and sweeping up debris to prepare the street for the repairs the next day. And while crew members were finishing up and getting ready to take their break, Drew saw a man struggling and stumbling while trying to mow his lawn. And without hesitation, Drew walked over to the man and offered to mow his yard for him. And when he was done, Drew returned to his crew to load up and return to the shop for the end of the day. And later, Drew was concerned that he was on duty when he helped the man, so he went to his supervisor and explained that what he had done and asked that it count as his break time. The nominator wrote that, quote, Drew didn't think about himself or how tired he was or that we wanted to take a break. All he saw was another citizen struggling, and he didn't want to see him get hurt. While it didn't take much time for Drew to do, it was a great sign of selfless service and commitment to giving a positive perception of city employees. Drew's selfless action and willingness to go out of his way to help a fellow citizen is commendable and should be a reminder to all of us how important our duties are as public servants. So I hope you will join me in a heartfelt congratulations to Drew for his hard work and commitment to the city of Lincoln. And now LTU Director Liz Elliott's here to say a few words.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here for such an award, and it's these kinds of these acts of kindness that just make LTU, but the community here so great that we step outside and think of others before we think of ourselves. And so what Drew did was inspiring to me and to so many others, and we are proud and honored to say that he is part of the LTU team And not only just for this, but he's a great addition and a huge value to our team. So thank you, Drew, for everything. I'll turn it over to Drew.
Just wanted to say thank you to the council and to the mayor for the award. Really appreciate it. I didn't do what I did for recognition. I saw a man who was struggling, and I have a 4-year-old son who has cerebral palsy, and I just thought if someday down the road he's struggling, I hope somebody's kind enough to help him out. So thank you for the award. It really means a lot. Thank you.
Introduce your family.
Yeah. I would like to introduce my family. My beautiful wife, Laura. I have 3 kids, Negan, who's 10, Declan, who is 8, Dax, who is 4, my mom, Liz, and my dad, Dale. And I have some co-workers here too to support, so thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.
Next on our council agenda is our consent agenda, sections 1 and 2.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak on any of these items on the consent agenda? Items 1 or 2?
You have a motion for one. don't
Yep. Is there anyone that would like to speak?
you? Here he comes.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Lynn Johnson with Lincoln Parks and Recreation. We have an appointment to the Veterans Memorial Garden Advisory Council on the consent agenda this afternoon. The City Council may know that the Veterans Memorial Garden Advisory Council is an 11-member group. We have a couple of vacancies right now, and Mr. Ricky Barber is proposed to be appointed to the council, to the advisory council. I was checking to see if he's here today. Mr. Barber is here. A little bit of background about Mr. Barber from his appointment, that he is a veteran serving in the U.S. Air Force and the Army National Guard, and most recently he worked for the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services prior to retiring in 2018, and we're very pleased to have Mr. Barber joining the Veterans Memorial Garden Advisory Council.
First off, thank you, Lynn. Thank you, City Council members, for all the work that you do for us. It's an honor to have the opportunity to serve in this capacity as a advisory council member for the Veterans Memorial Gardens. The way to honor and serve our veterans, our community, and our mayor. So I thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
willingness to serve. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on any of these items?
My name is Sarah Williams, SarahWilliams. I am here representing myself, not a specific organization, and my address I will withhold for safety reasons. City council members, I am here for 2 reasons. First, I'm here to finally claim my voice. I am here to tell you that sexual harassment and discrimination at the Lincoln Police Department was and is pervasive. 2 female officers that I'm aware of have been sexually assaulted by male officers. I have personal knowledge that LPD has been aware since at least December 7th, 2017, but hasn't taken action toward the discriminating culture at LPD. Second, I'm here to implore you to take action. You are the last entity that I'm aware of that has the power to ensure the culture at LPD changes, that command staff is held responsible, that the perpetrators will be held accountable, and that female officers will finally be respected and treated as equals to their peers. When I was still employed by the city, I reported the harassment. I told the EEO sergeant. I told the internal affairs sergeant. I told a captain who told the chief. I then had a meeting with the chief, complete with an agenda with the heading, Sexual Harassment and Gender Discrimination. Nothing changed, and I was retaliated against. I began seeing a therapist. I had panic attacks. I was diagnosed with anxiety and later with depression and other stressors and trauma-related disorder. Some days I didn't want to be alive anymore. So I quit. I quit because I didn't feel like I had a choice. I quit because I value my own safety. I didn't trust my coworkers. I quit LPD because it was the most unprofessional work environment I'd ever worked in. And I love serving the Lincoln community. I had developed relationships because I engaged in community policing. I attended Everett Neighborhood Association meetings. I gave presentations on human trafficking to UNL and Nebraska Westland students. I dressed up as McGruff, the crime dog, for F Street Neighborhood Church. I handed out Santa Cop gifts to the kids at the Don Sherrill Education Center. I bought supplies for the Friendship Home Stuff the Bus event. And I answered calls for Voices of Hope Crisis Line. I volunteered for Lancaster County CASA. And I did all these on top of my caseload. I worked my cases very hard, and I'm proud of the work I do and that I continue to do now. 8 months after I quit, I was yet again harassed by a Lincoln police officer. I thought after I had moved cities and changed jobs that I had escaped the harassment. So I complained to Lincoln's HR with the explicit request to have them handle it because the Lincoln Police Department Internal Affairs Sergeant did not value confidentiality. Of course, it was handed off to IA, and I realized then that the city was not interested in changing the culture of the department. Only then did I hire an attorney. But the lawsuit itself has caused me a large amount of stress. During an especially stressful period, I began having severe stomach pains, and I had a colonoscopy and an endoscopy to see what it was, but nothing was found, so that leads me to conclude that it was due to the stress that I experienced. Even though I'm here today, I don't think it's done anything. I don't think the lawsuit has accomplished anything. I think I've wasted my time because LPD's female officers are still being harassed. The mayor has also directed the city's director of equity and diversity to no longer investigate EEO complaints, instead handing them over to city HR, which effectively removes an avenue for these officers to make formal complaints, forcing them to make complaints to the state EEO, the city HR, or LPD itself. While 5 of us retain the same attorney, more female officers and civilian staff want to come forward, but they're afraid of retaliation. Sergeant Angela Sands has been placed on an unjustified, unpaid 30-day suspension. This is the same Sergeant Sands who nearly gave her life for the city on November 29th, 2015. Officer Melissa Ripley, who is known for serving on the leadership of the Lincoln Homeless Coalition and is the adoption coordinator for Second Chance Pups, was passed over for promotions. It's my expectation that under the leadership of Chief Owens, Assistant Chief Michonne Morrow, and Assistant Chief Jason Stilley, the women who have stood up for themselves will be systematically suspended or fired, unless you intervene. You have the opportunity to hold the leadership accountable, to enact change, and I implore you to use your authority for the betterment of the police department and the citizens of Lincoln. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on any of these items at this time? Is there anyone else that would like to address the council at this time? Okay, seeing. Seeing no one else come up to speak on items, the consent agenda, we'll go ahead and move on.
We can now vote on these items. Item 1A is appointing Jessica Boren to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for a term to expire April 27, 2024, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion?
This one,
Are we moving to,
we're moving
Correct.
to delay this one, right?
I'll move to delay for 1 week to December 20th.
Moved by Councilman Beckius, seconded by Councilwoman Washington. Any discussion on the motion to delay? Seeing none, may we please call the roll on the motion to delay?
Raybold? Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carried 7-0.
Okay, now back to the main motion. Any discussion on the main motion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
I don't believe, do we need to
No.
call a
No.
vote?
All right.
Mhm.
Sorry, that was my fault. We moved to delay that, so we'll move on to the next item.
Item 1B is appointing Ricky Barber to the Veterans Memorial Garden Advisory Council for a term to expire November 1st, 2023, introduced by Ward.
So moved. Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilman McGinnis. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1C is reappointing Edward Hoffman, Helen Meeks, and Lori Thomas Lee to the Telecommunication Cable Television Advisory Board for terms to expire July 1st, 2024, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Schob. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Ward?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1D is reappointing Mickey Esposito to the District Energy Corporation for a term to expire December 31st, 2023, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1E is reappointing David Quaid to the Nebraska Capital Environments Commission for a term to expire January 9th, 2025, introduced by Ward.
So moved. Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Washington. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
McGinnis?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1F is reappointing Paul Johnson and Nate Sanks to the Examining Board of Plumbers for terms to expire February 1st, 2024, introduced by Ward.
So moved. Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
McGinnis?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1G is approving an LPA program agreement between the City of Lincoln and the State of Nebraska Department of Transportation for the use of Federal Service Transportation Program funds for preliminary engineering, construction engineering of Cornhusker Highway between 39th and 39th and L Rehabilitation Project, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1H is approving the LPA program agreement between the City of Lincoln and the State of Nebraska Department of Transportation for the use of Federal Service Transportation Program funds for preliminary engineering, construction engineering of A Street, 6th to 17th Street Rehabilitation Project, introduced by Ward.
So moved. Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1I is approving the LPA program agreement between the City of Lincoln and the State Ndot Department for the use of Federal Service Transportation Program funds for preliminary engineering, construction engineering, and preventative maintenance of the O Street Viaduct, North 27th Street Viaduct, and Southwest 40th Street Viaduct, the two Sheridan Boulevard Petting Bridges, and the North 10th and Salt Creek Bridge, introduced by Ward.
So moved. Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Washington?
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1J is approving an LPA program agreement between the City of Lincoln and the State NDOT for the use of Federal Service Transportation Program funds for preliminary engineering, right-of-way, construction, and construction engineering of the 48th Street and Calvert Street and 56th Street and Calvert Street intersection improvement projects, introduced by Ward.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may I please call the roll?
Washington,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1K is approving the LPA program agreement with the city and the state NDOT for the use of Federal Service Transportation Program funds for preliminary engineering, right-of-way construction, construction engineering for Cotton Boulevard from O Street to Star Street Rehabilitation Project, introduced by Ward.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may I please call the roll?
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1L is approving the professional service agreement between the city and Shemer Associates, Inc. to provide preliminary engineering services for the First Street and Cornhusker Highway intersection improvement project, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, may I please call the roll?
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. That ends our consent agenda. We'll move on to Section 3, Public Hearing Liquor Resolutions. I'll call item 3A, Manager Application of Zachary R. Midget for Great Plains Beef LLC, doing business as Certified Piedmontese Beef, located at 4841 North 84th Street.
You can choose either microphone you like. There you go.
Alrighty. Hello, Zachary Midget, Executive Chef at Casa Bovina here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Just trying to get the liquor license renewed. The previous chef had moved on. I've been cooking for 11 and a half years, coming up on 12. I've been in the industry for quite some time, and also served for a portion of that time as well over in Napa, California. So just asking to renew the license.
Perfect. And what's your restaurant address?
It's 4181 North 84th Street.
Okay. Are there any questions for this applicant at this time?
Thank you for coming down.
Yeah.
So much.
Welcome to Lincoln.
Thank you.
I'll be calling items 3B and 3C together. Application of Wine and Spirits LLC, doing business as Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits, for a Class C liquor license located at 5040 North 27th Street, and the related manager application of Rob A. Reef.
Yay.
Hello, my name is Rob Reif, and I'm with Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits. It's the same application as we had before, except for it's an LLC instead of being a Hy-Vee company. So, do you have any questions for me?
Are there any questions at this time? Okay. Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on any of these items? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Mr. Chair, seeing no one else coming forward, I'd like to make a motion that we approve these items.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Washington. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Beckius. Oh,
I
you
think you
stepped
had to
up.
abstain.
Beckius has
Excuse
left the
me.
building.
Didn't even see that happen. Okay. Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All righty.
Okay, that ends section 3 of our agenda. We'll move on to section 4, our public hearing resolutions. Item 4A is appeal of special assessment revolving committee recommendation regarding paving district on Humphrey Avenue from North 7th to North 10th Street.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item?
Tom's gonna go.
Danae Kalkowski appearing on behalf of 1640 LLC. We've just requested a deferral again. I promise there is conversation going on. Evidently, it's not happening very fast, so the client had asked for an additional delay until toward the end of January.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to offer that motion to delay until January 24th of this item.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Washington, seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Naomi, please call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 4B is approving the revised investment policy of the city for the purpose of setting objectives and parameters for the management of city funds.
Chairman Bowers and members of the City Council, thank you for your time today. I am Tammy Wissing, City Treasurer, and I'm here today to go over the proposed changes in our investment policy statement with you. I do have a presentation, but if it's okay with you, I'll just go over those changes verbally with you. With these changes, we want to support brokers who are located within the state of Nebraska. And then to support the Buy Local initiative, we'd like to support smaller brokers who are located within the city of Lincoln. And then we have also increased our certificate of deposit term from 1 to 3 years. We have, with our municipal bond category, we have extended out 5 years, just 5% of that total allocation. We have increased our fixed term investments from 25 to 30%. The last proposed change is removing the investment committee section, and we respect your concern with removing this from the policy. We have considered this change in length. We feel the language is very permissive. We use the term may instead of shall. We have talked to our bond counsel, our municipal advisors, and our city attorney, and all are comfortable with striking this from our policy. We haven't found any city within the state of Nebraska or the state of Iowa with such a restrictive policy and self-managed fund that have the investment committee requirement. So in summation, we feel that the changes that we're proposing in this policy still maintain our fiduciary responsibility. So at this time, we're asking for you to consider those changes. Does anybody have any questions for us at this time?
Are there any questions at this time? Okay, seeing none.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Item 4C is approving the labor contract between the City of Lincoln and the Lincoln City Employees Association for a term effective August 19th, 2021 through August 31st, 2024.
Nicole.
Good afternoon. Nicole Gross, Human Resources. We bring forward the LCA contract for you guys to consider. The highlights of this contract include the duration of 3 years, wages set at a 4% increase in the first year, 3% the second year, and 3% in the third year. We are also adding the Juneteenth holiday to this contract.
Are there any questions at this time?
No.
Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Item 4D is approving the Cooperating Technical Partnership Program between the City of Lincoln and the Federal Emergency Management Agency for maintaining up-to-date flood hazard data and flood risk information for the City of Lincoln in cooperation with FEMA.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben Higgins. I'm with the Watershed Management Division out of Lincoln Transportation Utilities. This is an agreement with FEMA, and all this is just saying, hey, we can work with them in the future. And if we also enter this agreement, we'll get into a bigger pocket of funding that we might possibly have for future mapping. And it also names Tim Zock as the point of contact for that. And as just an FYI too, I am retiring this week. And then
Congratulations.
And so Tim Zock will take over as a division manager for that. So just FYI.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I don't know if you have any questions.
Condolences for him. No, just
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say it's highly unusual that an employee would announce their retirement at a council meeting. Mr. Higgins, I'm going to miss you.
Okay.
All right. Congratulations.
Okay, and thank you. And I really do appreciate the city council too. You guys do a lot of work here, and I know it's tough to sit here week after week and listen to everything. So
Thank you so much.
okay, thank you.
Thank you for everything you've done, Ben.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Item 4E is approving a maintenance agreement between the City and Board of Regents of the University of Nebraska for maintenance of property, including trees, sidewalk ramps, and grass surrounding UNL.
Liz Elliott, Director of Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. This basically just memorializes what's been happening for a number of years. Oftentimes, the university wants a higher level of service than we're able to give, whether it's snow plowing, tree trimming, or those types of things. And so oftentimes they will handle those within the right-of-way, that kind of halo around the university. So this puts it in writing. It doesn't, it's not any added expense for the City of Lincoln, LTU, or Parks. And it also provides some additional reporting so we can do some kind of better asset management. It requires them to give us a report of what changes or tree trimming they may have done during that year as well. It also clarifies the process for sidewalk improvements to make sure that they are complying with city standards and specifications on that. Again, it's really what has been happening over the last several years. It's kind of this agreement, this partnership with UNL really is a win-win situation for both the city and the university. So I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Are there any questions at this time? Councilman Cho?
Did you use the phrase win-win?
Win-win.
Thank you.
That's what we're here for. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I got a
Councilman Dennis?
quick question.
Yes.
This is all right away that they would have right to maintain?
This is sidewalks, trees.
Streets?
Not street. Oh, yes, snow plowing for streets. Yes,
Just
that would
maintenance,
be.
but not repair?
Not repairs. Those still would fall. They are city streets. They are not privately owned. On those, obviously, because they have students and additional faculty, it's a high volume area that they, for safety reasons, would like to get there sooner and faster. And since they're already there, it's more efficient rather than us having to deploy our streets. We can focus on all of the other city streets.
Okay.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Item 4F is accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for November 16th, 2021 through November 30th, 2021.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item?
Good afternoon, Chairman Bowers and City Council members. I am back. I'm not retiring anytime soon either. But I'm not sure if you guys want me to talk about it first. I know there was a pending item last time about some questions that you guys have. Has those questions been answered?
If you want to go ahead and speak for 5 minutes, you can go ahead and speak for 5 minutes. And since we already had a city attorney come up last time and then did the rebuttal, and we continue this this week, typically we would continue without public hearing, but we'll go ahead and let you speak for 5 minutes, and then we'll open it up to see if anyone else is here to speak on any other items under item 4F.
Okay, so your answers, you guys have your answers done then from the city, from the attorney. Okay, perfect. Just here as a reminder, this is what we were, have you guys made a decision or is this still pending, I guess?
We haven't voted, no.
We haven't voted.
Okay. So this is just to remind you guys what the numbers are. One of the things that I think will make a little bit of a difference, whenever we're dealing with the insurance, if you and I get in a car accident, there's a liability that is answered right away to pay your vehicle. When it comes to dealing with the city, I just wanted to point out, because I think some questions are going to arise out of the answers that the city attorney has given you. The city doesn't determine liability until everything is treated. Okay, so if you and I get in a vehicle accident, We get our vehicle paid if they're liable, and then the pain and suffering comes afterwards. So I want you guys to think that, because you're going to probably have some questions about the treatment, and I can answer those later. But I think that's a big difference in how the city and a maybe private company like a Geico does. So the person who may be treating doesn't know if those items are going to get paid from the beginning, is all the way until the end. So I just want you guys to have that in mind. That's all really I have for right now until later.
Are there any questions from the council at this time? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on item 4F? Is there anyone here that would like to speak on item 4F? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
We can now vote on these items. Item 4B is approving the revised investment policy of the city for the proposed of setting objectives and parameters for the management of city funds, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Councilwoman Raybold?
I'd like to make a motion to reinsert the requirement for an investment committee. We've had discussions with Director Young about this. It currently does have that requirement in the agreement, although the committee has not met, but it's something that they support and would not object to.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman McGinnis. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, may I please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, and then back to the main motion. Any discussion on the main motion? Okay, Councilwoman Washington?
Councilman Chair, Councilman Chair, I'm sorry,
Councilman
Councilman Bowers. Chair. Thank you. First, I didn't speak with the motion to amend, but I wanted to say that I think that this is a really good way to do business, updating our policies on investments. And I also think it's a good way to do business by keeping hold of the committee, the advisory committee. We're trying to really show that we are transparent and accountable. And even if the committee only meets a few times a year, I think that helps the community to understand that we mean transparency in all of our actions. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, may I please call the roll?
Washington?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 4C is Item 4C is approving the revised investment policy of the city for the purpose of setting objectives. Item 4C is approving the labor contract between the City of Lincoln and the Lincoln City Employees Association, LCEA, for a term effective August 19th, 2021 through August 31st of 2024, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Schob. Any discussion? Seeing none, may I please call the roll?
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 4D is approving the Cooperating Technical Partnership Program between the City of Lincoln and the Federal Emergency Management Agency for maintaining up-to-date flood hazard data and flood risk information for the City of Lincoln in cooperation with FEMA, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may I please call the roll?
Washington?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 4E is approving a maintenance agreement between the City and Board of Regents of the University of Nebraska for maintenance of property including trees, sidewalk ramps, and grass surrounding UNL, introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may I please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 4F is accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for November 16th, 2021 through November 30th, 2021, introduced by Ward.
So moved. Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Councilwoman Washington?
I'd like to offer a motion to amend this. We have it in front of us. Motion to amend number 1. I move to amend in the following manner. That the claim of Mercedes Ramirez in the amount of $23,750 should be added to the list of denied claims.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion on the motion to amend? Okay, seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Raybold.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Schob.
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, now back to the main motion. Any discussion on the main motion? Okay, seeing none, may we please call the roll on the main motion?
McGinnis.
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Schob.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Okay, that concludes section 4. We move on to our section 5, public hearing ordinances, second reading and related resolutions. I'll call items 5A, 5B, and 5C together. Approving the Antelope Square Apartments redevelopment agreement between Invest Lincoln AV LLC and the city relating to the redevelopment of property generally located on the block bounded by North 22nd Street, North 23rd Street, Q Street, P Street, and nearby right-of-way and parkland, and the related fiscal year 21-22 CIP to authorize and appropriate $5,500,000 in tax increment financing for the Antelope Square Apartments redevelopment project, and also the related tax allocation bonds for the Antelope Square Apartments redevelopment project in the amount not to exceed $5,500,000.
Good afternoon, Dan Marvin, Urban Development, 555 South 10th Street. I'm here today to talk about 5A, B, and C. I think this item has been before you. We're going to start off with a picture of the area as it currently exists, and then we'll kind of walk through a little bit of the history on this. So this is looking east. Most of the area looking east, there's an apartment building that is right here that has been acquired that would be coming down. And then as you look, if you look southwest, you can see that.
Thank you.
Yay, that's better.
That better?
Yeah.
Okay. Then as you can see, looking southwest, there's a business at this location, and there's the apartment. But essentially, that area of the block does not look like this particular picture from several years ago. There was this apartment, and originally a surety was going to develop out this property with the exclusion of the apartment that is on the corner that abuts the park across the street. What they've come back with, so we'll zoom out a little bit here. What they've come back with is a proposal to build out the entire block to make this the point of ingress and egress for most of the residents that work there or that will be living there, and then make this area off of 22nd Street the point of ingress and egress for vehicular access. They'll have parking underground, which I think is, as we get more into the urban core and think about how we want to be able to use our real estate, that's a great use of real estate to be able to park underneath, although it's not done without cost. The next are a couple of bird's eye views of the building that you can see. Again, this would be 22nd Street. This would be the entry into the area. Or no, I think this is the entry into the area. And then along here is Q Street. This is kind of an elevation of the building that you can see as you can go by. And I think if we do a before and after of what we're talking about, I think this will be a big improvement for the neighborhood. What you have before you is an allocation of the sources and uses for tax increment financing. The total is $5.5 million. What the developer will be providing for would be $72,500 in city administration fees, a bond counsel fee, which is the drafting documents and recording of the bond, and then city improvements, which I want to spend a little bit of time talking about, of $500,000 for this project. Earlier when we were in here and we were talking about the plan area, we had a hatched area that talked about where can tax increment financing be used. The hatched areas identify the areas where tax increment financing can be used. And the principal thing that I think came up from some of the earlier discussions was we need to think about how neighbors can have ingress and egress to the park over here. There's a bicycle trail that runs along through here, and how can we develop it out so that people can safely get over to the park? There's been a long-standing goal of being able to create a bicycle lane that would run and would lead down to the park. We think we're capable of doing that with some of the funds that come off this project. Some of those bicycle routes will be on street. Some of those routes will be using the wide right-of-way that's available along the sidewalk. I know Councilman McGinnis is always interested, are we going to be doing this by killing off parking that's in the area? And the answer to that is we will resist removing parking. As a matter of fact, we got a letter from LTU. They've done a preliminary review of it, and they think that they can implement bicycle lanes without the destruction of existing parking in the neighborhood. But we want to have that conversation with the neighborhood. We don't have a plan that we can take before you right now, but our goal is to be able to work on a bicycle lane and work on that concurrently while the building is being constructed, so that we're not going to be tearing up in front of the building just as Mr. West will be opening his building. So we think we can work on these on that end of the project while the building is under construction. The other park improvement that we wanted to make is anyone that's gone over to the spray park has realized that parking is at a premium over there during the summer months. And Lynn Johnson has identified some areas along that we would be able to do some angle parking that would allow people easier access to get to the park who want to go to the spray park. So those are some of the city improvements that we've talked about. Just to kind of give you some of the numbers here, this project is a $28 million project, has $5.5 million in tax increment financing. It's going to build 152 units of studio, one bedroom and two bedroom townhome units. They will secure 10% affordability on the 152 units, which means 15 units will be affordable to 80% area median income individuals for a period of 10 years. The right-of-way improvements, the new sidewalks, the landscaping, they're all consistent with the Antelope Valley area. And so I'll stop there and allow questions of myself, and I know Mr. West would like to be able to come up and make a presentation as well.
Are there any questions for Director Marvin at this time? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much, Director. Anything you want to add?
Hello, Brett West with Sheridan Life Insurance Company, 2000 Q Street. Just here really to answer questions. Dan stole all my notes, so I guess I don't really have anything to talk about. Looking forward to bringing this project to fruition down in the neighborhood.
Are there any questions at this time? Councilwoman Raybold?
Just a comment. Thank you so much for including in the redevelopment agreement your commitment to do the affordable housing. I think that's a great role model for other developers throughout the city willing to go above and beyond and make that commitment and put it in writing. So thank you very much.
Yep, we're working through the state grant right now, so hopefully by the end of the year that will be awarded. So,
any further questions? or comments? Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item?
Watchdogs of Lincoln government. We've spoken against the TIF in the past as a boon for the city and for developers, but a terrible situation for taxpayers. It causes the taxing entities to lose money, and therefore you are supporting developers against the taxpayers who voted you. Now, it seems unlikely that a surety needs the TIF financially in order to complete this project. So we are definitely against giving them the TIF at this time or in the future. A lot of developments happening down in this area, and there's going to be more TIF offered, requested, and whatever. And we are against giving it to everybody, even if it's low-income housing. The taxpayers should not be assisting developers in their desire to have buildings in to their benefit. So we do oppose giving them the tax increment financing. And in the past, we've looked at the records in the Department of Urban Development, and they have no but for or proof that it is needed. And we doubt that it's coming at this time either.
Thank you so much for coming down. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? Okay, would you like to provide a rebuttal? Okay. We had the introduction of it, we had a public hearing, so I'll invite Director Marvin up for a rebuttal.
The comp plan that was recently approved, Dan Marvin, City of Lincoln Urban Development, the comp plan spoke about infill development, and that the goal of the comp plan was 25%. So 1 out of every 4 individuals that move to Lincoln, we can try to find them a home within our current city limits. This puts 152 units on a square block in the downtown that's already built. Now, why would the city want to have infill development other than it's an aspirational goal? And the reason would be building streets out on the edge and building water and sewer lines out on the edge cost taxpayers money as well. And to incentivize and to compensate people to build in difficult infill environments where there's a lot more unknowns than in greenfield environments seems a fair trade. And in this particular case, on top of the ability to create infill that doesn't create demands on our street systems, doesn't create demands on additional water and sewer development, it also provides civic dollars towards civic goals that we have that are already there in terms of a bicycle plan and better utilization of a park that we have by providing additional parking. And then I don't believe that I need to remind you, but again, tax increment financing, the debt that is created from this is the debt that comes off of the increment that comes off that block. That block will continue to pay property taxes at the rate that it is currently assessed at. When the building comes in, that increment will generate additional revenue that will be used to help offset some of the difficult costs that are associated with building in the interior of the city, and they are provided by that under state law, which is what we're here to discuss. So those would be my points that I would hope you would take into consideration as you think about voting on this.
Councilman McGinnis?
Just a quick question. What's the total cost of this project?
$28 million.
28? Okay.
Any further questions for Director Marvin? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Okay, so we had the introduction, we had a public hearing, we had a rebuttal. We'll go ahead and move on.
Item 5D. Change of zone 20029. Application of Dennis R. Shore LLC for a change from R3 Residential District to H3 Highway Commercial District on property generally located west of North 33rd Street and Shore Drive.
Is the applicant here that would like to speak on this item?
Good afternoon. Matt Langston with Olson, 601 P Street. So the parcel that we are discussing right now is currently zoned R3 right there. It's a bit of spot zone with industrial and highway growing around it. We're just kind of trying to clean this up and develop it in a way that enhances or is like the area around it.
Are there any questions?
No.
Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilman Show, did you have a question? No. Oh. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Okay. Item 5E is Street and Alley Vacation 21002, application of NSC LLC to vacate portions of North 27th Street right-of-way and Enterprise Drive. Right-of-way generally located at North 27th Street and Enterprise Drive.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Houston. My address is 233 South 13th Street, Suite 1900, here in Lincoln, appearing before you today on behalf of NSC Limited Liability Company. With me today is Jay Lerner and Richard Quinlevin, both of the Lerner Company in Omaha. It's our third appearance before you on this project up on North 27th Street. Back in May of 2021, you approved use permit 103 for this site that is zoned a B-2 that requires a use permit. That use permit 103C reduced the square footage from approximately 700,000 square feet to approximately 510,000 square feet and added the capability of adding 250 dwelling units. What I put on the overhead is really the use permit premises, and you will see that the challenge for this site has always been the grade, and my client came up with a grading plan that really bifurcated this site and allowed this lower area that is directly adjacent to North Star High School to be developed as opposed to the commercial development up on the top of the ridge. It will be developed on the commercial basis. So the west area is a commercial use and the east is with the multifamily use, and we do have users interested in that site, so that's a good thing. The two items that actually were on your agenda back in May included the street vacation, but your use permit 103 predicated that the street vacation, the street right-of-way, would be incorporated into the premises. The City of Lincoln actually has excess right-of-way here, and you can see it better on this larger photo. I'll scan back a little bit. And the Lincoln and Transportation Utility Department asked us to help them by vacating this area. So we submitted the vacation petitions in exchange for granting the property owner to the north the right to use these streets to gain access to the signal that ultimately would be there. And your code under Chapter 14 does allow the City of Lincoln to vacate right-of-way and exchange it for other items of value. And the item of value here is the easement granted to the property owner to the north. So The item in front of you today is really the completion of the street and alley vacation. We would request the return of the $43,300 check that was deposited with the city clerk, and I think the planning department supports that. The summary report that's included in your information indicates that there is a support for the request that the developer be able to receive this right away at no additional cost because of the exchange that is occurring here. It will cost the developer approximately $250,000 to build this connection, so there's certainly fair value there to provide access to that neighbor to the north. The other thing I'm going to ask, if you're willing to do so, is to waive third reading and take action today. And the reason, two reasons for the request. This item really was supposed to be on your agenda back in May, and here we are in December, and it's 6 months later. And my client is here today from Omaha, and they would like to avoid coming back next Monday for a third reading. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Are there any questions, Councilwoman Raybould?
Yes, thank you so much for coming down. Can you tell me a little bit about the cost? Because it looks like there is an existing roadway and cut through.
There's an existing gravel driveway
gravel.
that the church has been using to gain access to this Enterprise Drive interchange. It's a full movement interchange that the subdivision agreement obligates my client to build install the signal there, and we will be installing that signal shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Councilwoman Washington?
Microphone. Can you explain, Mr. Houston, the new road that your client's going to build? I see it there, right? Yeah. So where does the church, where's the north?
The church will access it. This property to the north where the church is located will access this drive here, and it's really for their southbound traffic.
Right.
And it isn't a direct route, but it's also on a Sunday. Majority of the use is on a Sunday. And it will provide their southbound traffic access to this intersection, which will be signalized so that they can go southbound. Because you keep in mind, this is kind of at the north edge of the city of Lincoln. Most of the traffic will be southbound.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to see where if they had to make a change.
The access easement will be this loop.
Thank you.
Any further, Councilwoman Raybould?
I just wanted to follow up on your request for waiving and taking action on it today. I mean, you don't have to come down next week. It's just a vote that we will be taking, so.
That's always a question, but yeah.
Usually we do it with, there's serious emergency or deadlines or finance deadlines involved that are very critical to the operations of the project and the project moving
and the
forward.
practicality, I think, is that it took us a long time to get back to you on the street vacation. It should have been done probably in June, in my estimation. But if the council, in its discretion, determines that it does not want to waive third reading, I'm certain I will be down here next Monday anyway, so I can look at the vote then.
Mr. Houston, how many years have you been coming in front of the city council for? for a pretty long time, right? And I've been on the council for about 3 years, and I don't think you've ever asked for this to happen before.
It happens very rarely. It usually happens in December.
Okay. I guess my reason for just saying that is, you come in front of the council a lot, and you haven't really ever asked for third reading before during my time on the council, and so for you to know the rules and to make that ask, that would strike me as something that's needed at this time. Councilman McGinnis?
So you're saying it has been put on the permit, the use permit, that you have to give access, and it has to be a paved
Correct.
access? Is there a timeline on that, or?
Well, I think we have an obligation under the subdivision agreement to build the internal roads within 2 years, but the use permit 103 is real clear, indicating that the right-of-way will be vacated and incorporated into the use permit premises in exchange for the grant of this easement. And this city council approved that condition as a part of the use permit. So this is really frosting on the cake in my estimation.
Yep.
Any further questions? Okay. Seeing none, thank you so much. And I'd like to invite you on up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jay Lerner with the Lerner Company in Omaha, Nebraska. We've been here several times before, and I want to thank you for how you have accepted us and what we're doing. As you know, we did Lincoln Crossing in 1993. This is a block and a half north, so finally we figured out a way to do this. We're happy to do it. Just for Tom's sake, the reason I asked to see if we could get this done is because we have really been held up. We haven't been able to finish our grading because that all has to be graded. We can't, and the weather's good enough that we could get that graded now from the guy who's from the construction, the grading company. And so that was really my request because of the fact that that we're just held up on the plat. Couldn't do the plat until we knew whether the right-of-way was going to be part of it or not. So we're held up on the plat, we're held up on the grading, and that's why I asked. And with the weather being nice, that you never know what that extra week means. So that wasn't Tom, that was me.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Lerner at this time? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item?
Go ahead, Liz.
Okay. Liz Elliott, Director of Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. This is one that, because there is some federal funding involved in this road, we have a few other hoops that we have to go through on funding mechanisms, and Tim can walk everyone through that as well. And so ultimately, we believe we can come up with a plan to solve this, and we believe this is kind of a win-win situation, but there are some legal hoops that we have to jump through, and we're working with Tim and the law department to make sure that we're meeting the federal requirements on the funding. So I'll let Tim walk us through that, though.
Yeah, Tim C., Assistant City Attorney, 555 South 10th Street. I don't mean to be the one that holds up progress, but once in a while that's incumbent upon us to at least advise you as to what the circumstances are. This project, this right-of-way was acquired as part of the North 27th Street project, which at the time was a federal aid project, which means there is federal dollars involved, 80% of which, so 80% of the project costs are federal, 20% was from the city. In order to dispose of right-of-way acquired with federal dollars, you've got to go through a process. It's not a matter of just delaying people for the sake of delaying people. We have to do an appraisal. That appraisal then has to be reviewed by the state, who is designated by the federal government to sort of serve as a steward of those funds. They have their own requirements with what happens with the funds and our ability to give away the right-of-way later. I will acknowledge fully that the city ordinances talk about exchanging right-of-way for value. I'll fully admit that. But the city ordinances aren't the only thing in front of us today. We also have federal regulations that require us to get fair market value for the right-of-way. I think there's a solution here. I think that solution can be arrived at in the next week. And it's not my intent to come up here today and poison that well and not allow that to come to fruition. But I think to pass this today without working to get that solution taken care of, I think I have to simply advise the council that our failure to get fair market value for the right-of-way may have serious consequences, which I can't describe for you, other than to tell you that the federal regs say that if you are in violation or not following federal regulations with regard to these Title 23 projects, the Federal Highway Administration has the ability to take whatever steps they deem appropriate to either correct the situation or even withhold funds. There's a state case out there where the Federal Highway Administration actually withheld funds from the state until they gained compliance. So this seems like a small thing in grand scheme of things. I realize it's not for Mr. Lerner. He'd like to get moving. He would have liked to have been moving faster. I respect that entirely. But it's incumbent upon us at times to come up and advise you as to that there are other things in play here. And those federal dollars are a big deal when it comes to LTU's transportation work. So
with that, we do believe that we do have a way to make this work for everyone and accomplish their goals, as well as make sure we are complying with that. It does take us a little extra time so we can put that agreement in place and make sure that everything is, our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. But ultimately, I think we will be able to come up with a plan and work with Mr. Houston on getting what his client and the city need to do that. The ultimate fair market value for this right-of-way area is about $43,000 approximately. So we're committed to working with them and seeing what we can do, but it does require an additional step just to make sure we don't lose federal funding in the future for this.
Are there any questions for staff at this time?
Thank you.
Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Houston, would you like to provide a rebuttal?
Nothing's ever really simple, is it? I understand that the issue involving federal funds does complicate the issue, but that's not my client's issue. And admittedly, and I informed Mr. C that I'm certain we could get something worked out in the next week. I'm still going to ask you to vote today. I think we can still work together with the city attorney and work it out a mutually satisfactory solution. There's proposals on the table that would allow it to be revenue neutral or cost neutral to my client, and I think that's acceptable. But it doesn't allow the ordinance to take effect that we could permit Mr. Lerner to finish the grading. And that's an important aspect, an important step in this process. So I understand the complication. Ultimately, we would not have agreed to vacate the right-of-way had we known this issue was there, I can tell you that. We wouldn't have gone down this path. We didn't need the additional, I mean, we have 50 plus acres. We didn't need the additional ground. It helps it from an aesthetic standpoint. It helps it square off some of the boundary lines, but we wouldn't have proceeded on this path with knowledge that there's federal funds involved if it's going to complicate the street vacation. So I would ask you to go ahead and proceed and permit me work with the law department and see if we'll get something else worked out outside the context of the ordinance, because I think several weeks ago you did pass a First Amendment to the transportation improvement agreement that is relevant to this question. And I think we could work on some solution that would involve that agreement if necessary.
Councilman Washington?
I now have questions. Mr. Houston, I do understand your point. Can you explain, Mr. Lerner had talked about wanting to begin grading. Can you explain which ground you would be grading in the next week, and if it would be part of the right-of-way that we're discussing?
This site required a lot of grading, and I think the majority of that grading is completed, except for the area that's highlighted in yellow on the overhead, if that map can return. And that is the area that has not been graded and is required to be regraded as a part of the overall grading, the mass grading plan for this site. But we didn't own that yet. That's still city right-of-way, so we could not step in and finish that grading. And that grading needs to be completed.
And is that city right-of-way the same right-of-way that is encumbered with federal dollars?
Correct.
Therein lies my concern. If activity within the federally encumbered city right-of-way would constitute a trespass or a violation.
Well, I don't think it's federally encumbered. It's just that there's federal funding involved. I don't think there's nothing in
I mean encumbered by regulation.
Yeah.
So that would be my only question and that may be for the law department.
Yeah.
Because I understand a desire to move construction forward in good weather.
Any other questions from Mr. Houston at this time? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Did you have something you wanted to put in for a rebuttal also? Okay.
Thank you. I don't think we're at odds on the bottom line. We've already agreed more than once that the $43,000 value is being offset by the $250,000 roadway. So I think we're all in agreement on that. if where that 43,000 comes from to go to the federal, it's not our issue, because our issue is that's your issue on how it comes, and we've already agreed it's going to come one way or the other. So my point is, I don't understand why that would hold anything up, because we've all agreed on how it's going to be handled. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we had the introduction, we had staff report, then we had a rebuttal. When we get to the voting portion again, the council will then have an opportunity to discuss and potentially ask questions again. All right, let's go ahead and move on.
I'll be calling item 5F and 5G together. Change of zone 21047, application of Advantage Trucking LLC for a change from AG Agriculture District to H4 General Commercial District and I1 Industrial District on property generally located at 4201 West O Street, and the related conditional zoning agreement between the city and Advantage Trucking LLC.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item?
David Carey with the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. I didn't see anybody jump up, so I thought I'd just cover this one. This is a fairly straightforward change of zone request that the Planning Department provided conditional approval for, and the Planning Commission agreed with that and has voted to bring it forward to you for conditional approval as well. Everything has been agreed to as far as the agreement is concerned, so this is fairly straightforward, and we just recommend that you provide approval of this item.
Are there any questions for Director Carey? Okay, seeing none, thanks so much. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
I'll be calling items 5H and 5I together. Change of zone 19031A, application of MBH Land Holdings LLC for a change from AG Agriculture District to R3 Residential District, PUD, to O3 Office Park, and to H4 General Commercial District, PUD, and from R3 Residential District to R3 Residential District, PUD, to expand the existing Chateau planned unit development by 107.55 acres for 148,000 square feet of commercial floor area and a 16-pump gas station and 221 single-family dwellings on property generally located at South 40th Streets and Yankee Hill Road, and the related conditional zoning agreement between the city and MBH Land Holdings LLC, Highmark Land Investments LLC, and Guy Lamwell for property generally located at East South 40th Street between Granger Ave and Yankee Hill Road.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, members of the City Council, Mark Hunziker appearing on behalf of the owners and/or contract buyers of the property, which is really the remaining undeveloped land consisting of the portion of the former Yankee Hill Golf Course, which is not presently in the Chateau PUD. The parcel in this location is the MBH Land Holdings parcel. This parcel is the parcel owned by the Spidels, which is under contract with Apples Way LLC. This parcel is owned by Guy Lamley personally, and the remainder of it is with Highmark Land Investments LLC. Generally, this is a proposal that will rezone the area at the corner of Yankee Hill Road and 40th Street on up 40th Street to the Spidell Homestead under an H4 PUD, except for the piece right here, which will be O3 PUD. The H4 district was chosen primarily because it permits car dealerships. The area north of the extended Granger Parkway in this area will be zoned H4, but it will be restricted to B2 uses and setbacks, such as an ordinary neighborhood shopping center would. The next agenda item deals with the agreement between these developers and the city of Lincoln to make various improvements to the intersection of 40th and Yankee Hill, 40th and Granger Parkway, and 40th and 40th and Pine Lake. Most of those are restriping for dual left turn lanes and adding signal heads. There will be a fairly extensive amount of work at the intersection of 40th and Granger to accomplish that, because it involves moving some signal poles and arms and so forth. The total amount of investment in those infrastructure items is somewhere around $1,200,000, most of which constitutes impact fee facilities, which will be reimbursed as impact fees are collected from this area. And that agreement is also, as I say, the next item on the agenda, which we're in agreement with. The planning department recommended approval. We have no issues with any of the conditions of approval. The planning commission unanimously recommended approval, and I'm here to try and answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions at this time? Councilman McGinnis?
Yeah, great project. The R3 to R3 PUD for the clubhouse, what's the plans for that as part of the PUD?
Well, the clubhouse site is this site that's owned by Guy personally.
Okay.
I don't know that there's any plan to develop that separate from the rest of the R3 PUD. I think it's probably likely that it will all be developed together, but I think it's also very likely that whatever plan has been put in conceptual form for this project will change before it's finalized.
I got a lot of other questions, but I'll hold off.
That's why I'm here.
Well, a lot of connections. Is there any other locations for connections to roadways? At this point, it'd be the one and into the chateaus, correct?
Well, there's a connection to Yankee Hill Road here. Mm-hmm. There will be a connection to 40th Street here. There will be a connection to San Mateo, I believe about here.
Okay.
And probably also here. So there will be some connection. Connection to the east is difficult under any circumstances, as you know. And most, if not all, of this area would logically go back to the west anyway. So the golf course, there was development east of the golf course that took place somewhat after the golf course was there that cut off the opportunity for access up in here.
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Item 5J is an ordinance approving revised district boundaries of the city for the 4 city council districts in compliance with Article 5, section of the Home Rule Charter of the City of Lincoln.
Is there anyone here that would like to introduce this item?
I'm sorry.
Edit. Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item?
I'm sorry.
Okay, guys.
Yeah.
Love you too.
Yeah, I know.
It's not okay, and we're sorry.
Here comes Director Carey.
Given to us by David here.
Here's David.
My apologies, I was speaking to an applicant out in the hallway. David Carey with the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. Let's get my bearings here. And just to be certain, we are talking about the redistricting topic, correct?
Correct,
Because I was
yes.
outside
Yes,
the room. Don't want to go off on a tangent here otherwise. Yes, thank you. What we have before you is the requirement by charter to have 4 city council districts that are substantially equal in population. We do this every 10 years. It is based on the updated population from the decennial census. Obviously, we did the census in 2020. That process, due to the pandemic, was delayed significantly, the census was. And so what that has done, it has forced the process to get at the state level and at the local level. It's been compressed to the end of the calendar year. And so I'll walk you through quickly kind of what has happened. So the state legislature created their new districts, which was completed by the end of September. And then the local county election office received that information, and then based on that, they created updated voting precincts areas. And then they handed that off to us at the end of October. And so we basically had roughly a month to really work on this. So just noting that everything was compressed for the process than would otherwise be the case. Having said that, I do want to show you what we have before you and compared to what we, the current district map, which is on the overhead right now, and we'll wait for that to come up. So what you see is you have the 4 districts, 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is the current district map. Now, what I want to put in front of you on the overhead at this point, having just seen that, is the new proposed district map. And this does have the breakout of that new population. This is part of the ordinance that is in front of you today. And this is what is proposed. What we worked on is to, and as you can see with the population distribution, we had success in coming up with a reasonable updated map that is substantially equal in population for the 4 districts. It's very similar to the current district map. It's not exactly the same, but we tried to be very good about making sure that we weren't splitting neighborhoods, that we were not splitting voting precincts, so we were successful in that. We do believe that this makes a lot of sense and really suggest approval of this map and this distribution of the population. Let me double check one more time. The only other thing I would say is that the reason why some changes were required, other than some of those voting precincts did change, so we had to adjust some things on a more minor status. But really what happens is over 10 years, we are a growing community. We have had growth in all of these different districts. We've had growth. And so the reality is that we did have to do some balancing based on where that new growth that took place. The good news is that we have a very reasonable proposed map, and we were able to successfully balance that population. And so with that, I will see if there are any questions and follow up on those.
Are there any questions for Director Carey? Councilwoman Washington?
Director Carey, I just have one question. In looking at both the maps, I really appreciated the detail you provided in the proposed map about population, but I could not find the population in the current maps. So I was just curious about that. I noticed that their numbers are overall very close in the proposed maps to each other, district to district.
Yeah, see if I can pull this up here. Kind of. So I do have that information if you would like me to provide that for you. That wasn't part of the packet that was sent with this. What I can say is that as we look back 10 years to what was approved back then, that is this map, the numbers were very close as well, similar. These numbers that we have today are obviously higher because we have grown for 10 years. But they were also very close in population at the time when the 4 districts were redistricted back in 2011.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Director Carey?
No.
Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. Or did you want to speak on the redistricting, Jane? Okay, I'm sorry.
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. One of the questions that I had, did Democrats and Republicans have anything to do with this redistricting?
See here?
David? Yeah, you can too, David. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yep, come on up.
Does Ms. Kinsey have any other remarks or questions?
Yeah, are there any other
The
remarks?
totality of the. Is there anything else you want to say, Jane?
Right.
What?
Yeah, so what will happen is if you want to go ahead and provide your comments, then we'll invite Director Carey up to provide a rebuttal. So is there any other comments or questions that you'd like to share?
Okay, that's the only question.
That's the only one? Okay.
What about other people?
Yep.
I believe the comment / question was whether Democrats, Republicans considered in this. No. We really took this on as a population question and trying to get it as distributed as possible, as evenly as possible. And that has been and is our purpose here. So that is, and I believe we were successful in doing that.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
So we had the introduction, we had a public hearing, we had an opportunity for rebuttal. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item.
Item 5K is amending Title 24 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to plumbing and sewers by repealing Chapter 24.01 entitled Fire Suppression Systems in its entirety.
Hi there, Chad Blaha, Building and Safety Department, and even though it says it was in the plumbing chapter, that's the reason for this change. We're moving it out. It does not appropriately belong there. None of the requirements that are being repealed are going away. They are moving into the fire code, the Lincoln Fire Code. And so this was a change that was meant to happen back in August, September timeframe when you guys all approved the new fire codes for effective date January 3rd. It was missed that this repeal didn't happen, so this is just catching up with that and making sure that we repeal this. So once again, all of the requirements that occur in this Title 2401, I think that's what it is, are just being moved into the appropriate locations in Title 19 in the Lincoln Fire Code.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thanks so much.
Yep.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
That ends our public hearing. We can move on to Section 6. Item 6A is amending Lincoln Municipal Code, Chapter 24.12, Lincoln Plumbing Code to adopt the 2018 edition of the Uniform Plumbing Code as amended as part of the Lincoln Plumbing Code, introduced by Shob.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward? Yes. Shob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay. Councilman McGinnis?
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward and waive third reading for number, help me out here. Which number was that?
5E.
5E? And we vote on the final on that today. I want to have a discussion about it.
Okay, moved. Yep, the learner one.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Is there any discussion?
I
Yes.
have, excuse me.
Okay, we'll do Councilman McGinnis, then do Councilwoman Washington.
I think this is something that I think all the parties agreed on, mostly the logistics or the cost, the dollars on this, and I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. But I'd like to also call up our attorney, Tim C., or come up, since you seem to be the one most knowledgeable about this.
This means I drew the shortest straw, but yeah, it's Assistant City Attorney.
I have a quick question for
Exactly
you.
what you got.
If we voted on this, would we still be able to do the agreements that you're thinking about as an after the fact? Or can we give a license or an access easement In the meantime, but it'd only be for 7 days.
That's just it. You're asking us to do something extremely temporary for a week, and I think we all have to keep in mind that ordinances go into effect 15 days after they're passed. So even if you pass it today, ordinances don't, by law, don't go into effect for 15 days after they're passed.
So if we pass this today, then it still needs to be signed by the mayor, or
It has to be signed by the mayor.
the mayor can still veto it, and mayor has 5 days to sign this? Or-
I believe so. I think that usually happens, yeah.
So
later this
in the
week.
meantime, we can still get the agreement put together in the next 5 days. And then that way they can get a jump start on it. If we don't, we will be waiting another 7 days. You kind of understand what
I hear what you're saying, and I'm not trying to suggest we delay the world, but I know that when we move things more quickly than we should, we usually end up redoing them and costing people 30 days instead of 7 days, or at least that's not an unheard of possibility. Yes?
And then I'm going to ask you the question that I asked Mr. Houston. If we were to move forward on this, and I guess, and we would have to, if we were trying to make construction time available, my concern is that the state acting on behalf of the federal government or because of the federal dollars, do they need to be a party of this? Are we going to somehow set up a situation whereby any activity in the right-of-way that has federal funding is now an act of trespass?
No, there's no trespass. They don't hold a property interest in the property. It's it's a financial interest only. Still thinking through Councilman McGinnis's question a little bit as we do this. So seems to me that what the ordinance in front of you says is that the right-of-way can be vacated, that the total amount that's already been submitted is $43,300. That's the critical thing that the federal government wants to see, and that the state wants to see on behalf of the federal government, is that the vacation happens and that fair market value is received. So yeah, I guess that can be approved. That's what's in front of you as a vacation of right-of-way for $43,300. City is in an okay position on that, probably.
And is the $43,000 considered the fair market value?
That's what the appraisal came back at. Yep, that was arrived at through the process.
Councilman Beckius?
And city law's position is to try to exchange in some way, shape, or form with the developer for that fair market value. Is that the road you're going down?
Yeah, the city is considering if there is other work that could be reimbursed for the efforts that they're doing to take what is essentially an access road that the city doesn't need, doesn't serve a city purpose, and to incorporate into their private development while still providing the same access that is there. So yes, I think there's something that can be worked out here. Would prefer to give you a final picture of that prior to a vote, but if the vote is tonight, then I guess the vote is that the ordinance vacating the right-of-way passes with the value of $43,300. I think that's what's in front of the council tonight.
Thank you, Mr. C.
Councilwoman Raybould?
Normally, we are really eager to facilitate development and business and operations and never stand in the way. But I have to tell you, and I think Mr. Houston said this very clearly, that it is very rare that we waive the third reading. And usually, ordinances are set up to be very deliberative, and it's highly unusual to waive it for a convenience. Grading can happen. Since I do construction, and I know that several people up here on the dais also do construction, you can continue grading in really bad weather, and really when the ground's pretty hard, you can still take your graders out and take care of that. So it's not so much an issue of that. But the second thing is when legal counsel makes a recommendation that we slow it down until other elements of the agreement have been worked out and realized. I think that gives me additional reason to pause and wait one more week. That's not asking a lot in the whole scope of things, but it is unusual to simply waive it for a convenience to keep moving forward on this. So I will not support that.
Councilwoman Ward?
I guess this is as much as a comment as perhaps a question for Mr. C. The thing that's giving me pause is I want to be helpful. Mr. Lerner has been here a lot, and certainly Mr. Houston has made a real strong case, but as our legal counsel, I want to be respectful, and I'm listening to what you're saying, Tim. And so my concern is if we set a precedence as well, and then spring comes and we have other projects in front of us that want to start working sooner than whatever the weather may be at that time. And it's not that I don't want to be helpful, but it does make me a bit anxious to use this tool that we have to suspend our rules and go ahead and vote, given what our city attorney's office is telling us, and the fact that others could stand in front of us and ask for the same thing. And where do we draw, how do we balance that? That's what concerns me. So I don't know if that's a legal concern or just one of my own, but I wanted to put that out there, Mr. C, before you left it.
It's within your prerogative to make that decision. Sorry to duck the question.
No, I was hoping you could advise us. No, you have, and thank you very, very much. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, so all council members have had an opportunity to provide comment. Any last minute discussion? Okay, seeing none. Thanks so much. So since we're in the voting session of it, let's go ahead and call the roll on the motion to suspend rules.
Raybold?
No.
Washington?
No.
Warren?
No.
Schob?
No.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion lost. 3-4.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on.
Section 7 is our resolutions. First reading, items 7A through 7L. Ordinances, first reading is section 8, which are items 8A through 8G. And we have pending list items 9A.
Okay, today is a public comment session, so anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda and not planned to appear on a future agenda may do so at this time. Individuals are allowed a total of 5 minutes to speak, regardless the number of topics. When you please come up, please say your name and your address. And is there anyone here that would like to provide public comment and address the council?
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. I would like to address the popular concept that's being implemented called diversity, equity, and inclusion. It can and cannot cause diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it can cause division and questionable behavior of those who implement the process. An example is LPS, about which a report in the Lincoln Journal-Star on November the 14th, 2021, stated that meetings are being held with minority students to make them feel at home. These meetings have included board members, specifically Connie Duncan, who is now the president of the school board. A later article recognized a black student at East High who is in this program. And she is was trained to assume a leadership position. The East High principal was quoted as saying, to the point, that if this student spotted anything out of the ordinary, She, the student, was to report it to me, the principal, and we take care of it. This sounds like spying on students and turning them into authorities of behavior that is appropriate or inappropriate. This is not the American way, nor in our tradition. Indeed, a friend has told some of the watchdogs that some parents see East High as an environment of one of communism, in which students report on one's neighbor who is speaking against the state. The city, the Watchdogs is appalled at hearing this kind of information, which was publicly presented in media. The city has hired or made a diversity, equity, and inclusion position to be in the new budget, but a person has not been hired. We hope this will not occur when someone is hired for the position. Many companies and even the athletic department at UNL are making these types of positions. It can apparently be easily distorted, and we become a city of people spying on each other. We ask that the council monitor this new position so it does not evolve into a spying situation, a retaliation situation, or it causes division among the people, the employees, and the supervisors, and whoever is on the city payrolls. This is supposed to be a benign type of help against racism, but it can cause races to be antagonistic to each other. And that's why we believe that it is not appropriate, or it should be appropriately handled. Please consider that you will monitor this position and that we will not be turned against each other as citizens or employees or council members or whoever is involved in this.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council at this time? Okay, seeing none.
I move we adjourn. Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius, or Councilwoman Ward. Councilman Beckius, did you have something you wanted to throw in there?
I would just like to respond, if I may, here really quickly to our speaker. Thank you for your concerns this evening. I appreciate them. As you know, I'm one of the city council members who voted to include the diversity, equity, and inclusion manager in the new city budget, and I look forward to that person being hired and those new policies being implemented, but I have no concerns like what you've mentioned and do not anticipate them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Adjournment was moved by Councilwoman Raybold, seconded by Councilwoman Ward. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
We stand adjourned.